So we'll go no more a-roving, so late into the night. Though the heart be still as loving, and the moon be still as bright, for the sword outwears its sheath, and the soul wears out the breast. And the heart must pause to breathe, and love itself have rest. Though the night was made for loving, and the day returns too soon. Yet we'll go no more a-roving by the light of the moon. go no more a-roving by the light of the moon.
Just wanted to set the mood there. Yeah, I know. I kind of used a full song for that, but hey, it's a really good song. Uh, in a way, I just thought, hey, why not? Maybe add a little bit more to something else that's out there. Well, in a way, it kind of like has that, you know, I don't know. I guess you could say primal aspect to this music, but the other half of it is that it kind of sparks some of my rather, I guess you could say, bloodline memories. Because, well, I guess that's how it works. Some music is actually meant to unlock things, others is meant to calm you down, etc. You know how that works. Just if you've listened to any different types of music, that's you get angry, different moods, etc. It's every little bit of emotion that you could probably feel. Music is quite a bit, in a way, a reflection of your own personality, especially if you make it. This picture right here that I've posted for this video is it's not really much, but I got it from when I was doing my business trip. I kind of decided to keep some of it private, but if you're watching this, then well, I'll post a link in here somewhere so you can go watch it after a little bit. And don't bother looking for it because it'll pop up randomly. I keep my stuff hidden to some extent, but I keep it exposed out in the open. uh, just call it hunter's intuition. Anyways, um, in the video that I'm posting, I'm pretty much talking about parallels, but you don't really need to watch it just to be able to get the idea of what I'm talking about. But I'd still prefer you actually have a listen to what I have to say about this. Now, I've kind of come to the conclusion that parallels, in a way, they apart from the main dimensions that we live in now, definitely have a set number of variables to them that are very different from that of ours. I mean, life can be supported by poisonous gas that we couldn't live in, or other more extreme measures, like to that extent, or it could be a complete paradise. Now, how was I able to even travel to these parallels in the first place? Well, let's just say when it comes to human creation, the mind has barely any limitations to it whatsoever. In a way, there's more to this than just meets the eye. We have a very, very, very finite way of being able to travel between dimensions, but not in the physical sense. At least that, not that I know of yet. If at all, the technology for it has probably been suppressed, like everything else that's on this planet. But everywhere else, dimensional travel is just rampant. At least in this parallel, what I call the main parallel from. But think of it this way: what would a being call their main parallel, their home parallel, or something like that, if they were traveling to your parallel, this parallel right here and now? That's an interesting perspective by any means. You have different types of beings that could pop in from other parallels, and well, either try to actually make this parallel a lot like theirs by starting with this planet, or wherever else they actually go. And I haven't really seen anything like that, but I guess in a way that's probably because aside from anything that really goes on, is that we just want to leave well enough alone. They have their own life and another parallel, and we don't want to interfere with it. But we do feel the desires of those who want to change it back to the way they actually feel was their home parallel. Sometimes we can assist with that. I mean, not just civilians, but just about anybody who can think of making a clan or coming up with a solution to a problem that another parallel has. Heck, we could probably even think of ways to transport the other raw materials that would, well, otherwise be unavailable in that parallel to that place in particular, invoking trade, which I think is not a bad thing, but at the same time, when it comes to trading for keeps, I guess you could say, which unfortunately I see a lot of this on this world, is that you can't really take back what resources that have been used versus what can be reused. Now, granted, that's not a bad thing, but at the same time, it also invokes waste. Now, I've talked a little bit about parallels in some general sense of things, but I just want to get things a little bit straight here. Not every parallel is a how should I put it? Perfect copy of what we have thought up or created as humankind, or reptilian, or some other sort of world or scenario. Sure, there are others that do not even come close to that of human thinking, and therefore they are not of creation. They are a parallel of their own. Sometimes when we actually write or draw or do something else, but when we would continue to add to it, it eventually comes to life completely and takes on a story of its own. In that sense, you could say, okay, what if I drew a stick figure? Well, that would be pretty much the start of something. But what would you do with that? What would you turn it into? In a way, you would be creating a parallel, but in a way, in another light, you're the creator of that parallel. Music and everything else, including, just we may not be able to see it, but we can hear it. Harmonics, in a way, can create certain dimensions or colors, stuff like that. I can't really describe it because these parallels are far different from anything else that is possible. But music is put into being so often that, in a way, I wouldn't doubt without me exploring it and interfering with it, because hey, music is music. You can't interfere with much. You can't really find your way out if you don't know how to get back. You get lost in it, like most music would. Like, you try to distract yourself from a world that is much more than what you think. So, yeah, that's probably a good way of saying it, without really stating it fully of what can be seen in that sort of parallel. I still see a lot of different things that are also negative, that politics in its own right is okay, but it creates different variables for parallels that can actually affect ours in a sort of backwards way. Energy you put out, energy comes back like a boomerang. You see it in a more broader spectrum if you really start to understand that. Now, I wouldn't say that it's a bad thing, but I wouldn't say it's a good thing either. Because if you create something, you have to remember what you actually created in the first place. One small little stick figure can turn into something much bigger than what you've ever thought prior. Much, much more can happen in a set amount of time rather than what can be known by anything else. Excuse me if I'm just in the volume here. Alright. And another thing. I've kind of started up a clan. It's more of a clan that really borders on precognition. To elaborate, really is preventative for my kind specifically. I mean, if something happens, then eventually you have to recreate something. Well, that's pretty much the point of it. Like, if something were to happen to my kind, I'd like, okay, well, let's see if we can pool our resources and try again. Everyone else would have a second chance. It wouldn't be something Source would do. I mean, obviously, yeah, somebody's going to have eventually come along, despite my own efforts or another being's efforts in the clan I have, to restart humanity. Of course, my motivations for restarting humanity are as pure and simple as it could possibly be. Give everyone a second chance and see if they have what it takes to really push forward in a way that was not possible last time. Might require putting a different planet into the system, or uh, recollecting the asteroids and refounding one of the planets out of something else. But that would take by how many cycles? By system cycles, I guess about I'd say about 50, 100 cycles to really be able to complete. So even if the time scenarios are different, we are having our measures of time are like that. It's very much the same premise. Like, we're doing something about it. You can't really save humanity down here if you're going up top. Well, hey, we had our time, and we have to try to reconcile what we can't save. Maybe even find people that have a way of thinking that can at least understand, like, hey, we messed up. We can't really do this again. I hate referencing certain text, but excuse me. But it's, in a way, the only way I can that I can think of getting this across. I know that in Revelations that it says that there is after all the brimstone, fire, the punishment, etc., that there is a new world after this one. Well, yes, of course there is, but there, in my mind, is actually two worlds. One of the higher dimensions and like Pleiadians, where the reptilians come from, a little bit lower than our dimension, etc. There's a lot of different places that can be gone to that people might get lost from, and that's pretty much one of the other things that I've made this clan for, is like, if anybody survives, then I have to at least try to collect them in one place so they don't get lost. Because this is the world that I've explored, and I pretty much know quite a bit about. A person that's never done it, or a soul energy that's never even traveled beyond its planet, wouldn't even know what to do. They wouldn't figure out, hey, if you want to learn, you can go over here. If you want to do this or that, it just would turn into a complete, let's just say, a lot of people without a map to guide them, so to speak. That's pretty much what it is down here with duality, but up there, you make a mistake, you have to live with that. You actually have to keep going in that direction. It's always linear. If you don't choose the right path the first time, it's pretty straightforward. Yes, you can change your path at any given time, but you have to work to get off that path. It's like, okay, you've made this mistake. Let's try to get you so you can actually work on this path. It's not completely free, but at the same time, excuse me, roommate. Yeah, I got a new roommate. I still got some other bills to pay. Not completely free yet, but anyways, yeah. Is really what I'm talking about is how you actually move on when you have no home left. I think that I know that for a fact that humanity is adaptable in every aspect. But look at it this way: what would humanity do without a flesh and blood body anymore? What would it do when it's in a corporeal state? I mean, certain abilities would be unlocked they didn't understand how to use. They would more than likely start trying to find purpose, and, well, there is no purpose. I guess in a way that when I was exploring myself, excuse me, that I was trying to find my own purpose, my own way, my own path, but in fact, I've actually found only one thing that really comes down to it, and that's being able to be with family. I can't really say that, yeah, that's true love, but it's at least something. I mean, if you can live with a decision, you can live with a path up there, then you can survive. It's not like you can't just go up there and start creating something if you wanted to. I mean, sure, that is one of the choices. But you also have to have some people who are just about as like-minded as you, who want to create the same thing you do. But in a way, down here, sure, it's the same way, but it's harder to do that because nobody has the abilities, nobody has the tools that you would have when you're in a corporeal state. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, like corporeal, what I mean is corporeal is like corporeal light body, your astral projection form, etc. I could go down the line of the different New Age stuff that is out there, but I guess corporeal is simple. You got corporeal and non-corporeal. It's like see-through versus not see-through. You're able to touch it versus you're not able to touch it. Excuse me, that was backwards in that context. But nonetheless, I still see a lot of different things that could be fixed. I mean, well, yeah, I'm not touching them anymore. I don't want to bother. Sure, I could change the world and probably save everybody, but what point would that make if nobody has a like-minded ideal to try to start it up? Sure, I have a few people that may want to actually make this tower that I've been wanting to build for the past few, what, 2, 3 years? Or at least ever since I saw it. I mean, hey, yeah, that's actually a great idea. Build up to start farming and all that. Uh, sure, it might not be profitable, but look at it this way. What is profit if there is no sense that, hey, we can actually use this for future use, future generations? Skyscrapers have actually been up for as long as we possibly can allow them to be. If one skyscraper was becoming on the verge of collapsing, we could just clear out one with the entire machinery, and do maintenance on it. I've seen it done before without question. Even though abandoned buildings have some sort of value to them. Now, I've really gave a lot of thought to this, as well as a lot of other scientists and scholars, I guess you could say, that have done research on it. But what I'm really trying to say is that we don't have to live the way we have now. I mean, I'm living in a trailer, aren't I? I don't care about the society around me. It's just, to me, not needed. I could just move and go wherever I please, just as I would of the upper dimensions. If I can find ways of surviving, then so be it. Sure, it would take a lot of time to actually fix the truck that I use to get around, but as soon as I place myself down in one spot, I'm fine. Come to think of it. What sense of freedom would you actually put up? Hmm? There's no other real way of going wherever you want in this world without having a large amount of money or resources or something that you know you can actually derive off of. Heck, even gold miners have to work for their sense of security or future, which in terms that future is not literal. Excuse me. Okay, yeah, sorry, my roommate needed something. uh, well, and I guess I could probably start with before I got interrupted. Um, I don't really have much else I could probably say aside from family. Like what's happened with that recently. um, kind of had to sort of rekindle our own our way of just being with each other. Aita was kind of upset at me for just me doing something bad to her. I mean, yeah, I know. I shouldn't have done it. I made a promise. I broke it. I'm not perfect, and she knows that. But at the same time, it was to the point that she just had enough. Uh, I kind of brought her to a parallel where her kind was still around to some extent, or a remnant of it, because that's all that's really left. And our main parallel, it's just as is. I can't really say for sure, but I think after a little bit of talking about what she was like when she was little growing up in a place like that, it was just me and her, just managing what we could. Sure, we've cut back on speaking terms again, but she kind of told me that if you make a promise, please just tell me if you're going to break it ahead of time. Uh, I, I'm not going to really be making too many more promises in the future, but in a way, us being together is just a promise in itself. You have to be careful what you do. You make a wrong move, and you're pretty much not only hurting yourself, but you're hurting another person. Love is very difficult, to say the least, especially for the first uh, special being that I'm actually with, that I could spend the rest of my eternity with. She's so much more to me. And, well, yeah. Another thing, another being by the name of Afe. I don't really know if I've mentioned her before, but she pretty much familiarized herself with Aita, and I I became part of the family, vice versa. Like, I was kind of reluctant to actually be able to be around her for a while, but yeah. It after a little bit, it just worked out. I had to really be able to struggle to find connection, but nonetheless, we pretty much became related in the matter of fact that we both have a very interesting past. She grew up as a thief, to believe it or not, and not a very good thief, I have to say, because every time she tried to steal food, she was, well, she was in a bit of a predicament. And eventually she was raised by others, adopted, so to speak. She, she really was kind of one of those, I guess, beings that fell on hard times when their parents, uh, I don't know, I guess you could say, irrefutably left them when some things happened, and not necessarily of the good kind. I can say for sure that yeah, maybe they left her elsewhere. Like they didn't mean to keep her at one point, but at the same time, they didn't have to do what they did. She, I guess you could say she was born into a life that she couldn't deal with. I guess in a way that's where we more or less related on more often than not. I can't relate to the same sort of life that anybody else here can hear. She certainly couldn't either with the way she was. Um, I guess in a way that's kind of where we fell in with each other, is that we found something that's so unique and uncommon that it was more or less common nature for us to really start something with each other. Of course, Aita already found something in her that I already didn't see. They were already in love, and I just didn't know what to make of it. When it comes to relationships that are much bigger than you think, it's harder to really understand how that works. I mean, sure, as of recent events, Afe might have actually needed to get a synthetic body, but hey, I honestly don't care what way she looks. She's still her, to me. When it comes to true love, anything goes. Sure, maybe I'm not one for unconditional love just yet, but I guess that's kind of what has allowed me to really detach myself from certain things, but at the same time, allow myself a little more than just, I guess you could say, harder times ahead. I've I also had a few kids with her, so it's not too bad. We're all just one big family now. Doesn't really matter what happens or goes on after which. We still love her. But even so, it's as odd as it is, it's a long distance relationship. But at the same time, I'm pretty much there right beside them now, even as I'm talking. Maybe not conscious, but conscious versus unconscious, it's a little bit difficult to describe when you're um, of a hybrid mind, I guess you could say. Um, like if I'm actually awake here, that means I'm asleep on the other side. I'm like, well, okay, doesn't really matter then. But when you're asleep and then you're awake on that side, that's just uh, it feels much more than just okay, I'm here for one specific thing and one specific thing only. You don't feel like there's no pressure or anything like that. Everything that all like that, or when it comes to duality, is just there's nothing to that at all. It's a very humbling feeling, to say the least. Be able to know that you're actually part of a bigger picture, but you yourself are a creator in that right at the same time. Just feels different, you know? There's no really other way I could try to say it. It's just completely different. From all the exploration that I do to the other things that I do family wise. Well, it's always something to really try to get yourself into, and then if you get into trouble, well, get yourself out of. Even exploring parallels is, yeah, my most recent curiosity venture, I guess you could say. But when it comes to the dream state, when you're up there, just recalling any of the memories, well, when you're awake, that's near impossible because there's such a big separation between the two. But I still remember some experiences, feelings, or emotions that I felt. And I can try to back some memory to it. It's not easy, though. I I guess you'd say that I've gone after a little bit differently of Mr. Groob on here on YouTube. Yeah, I guess in a way I might need to work on just collecting certain emotions for now and see if I can find memories that I can relate to them. It's an interesting world. Just being able to move between the two, time in, time out. I have two realities that you can live in. I guess which would you choose to live in most? But I guess that's another question for another time. Or one you could probably answer yourself. It doesn't really matter to me. As always, good luck to you all, and safe journeys.